Even better one inside because look who's here. Sheree is here from Fork in the Road, and we are obviously talking spices again. Now let's go back and touch on what we talked about last week, because so many people talked about all the spices she brought last time.
It's impressive what you can do with some basic ingredients that you might not know about in your kitchen.
And there's so many things to know, and there's so many things that you can do. It really expands your food horizons.
Right.
So we talked last week about salt in particular, and I brought along a couple things, and I showed how we put them in. They come in grinders, and that we've got some black Hawaiian, we've got some red. We didn't talk about pepper. Pepper's the same thing. Not only does pepper come in a grinder, and it's much better that way. Don't buy it already ground. Do the pepper mill thing. But there are lots of different kinds. You can get white and green colored peppercorns, all different kinds, and you can get blends like this one is black peppercorn with lemon. It's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And you can get it with cayenne, all different kinds of things. So that really
is lemon pepper.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Instead of the salt-filled lemon pepper a lot of people use.
Yes, and what I really like too, the other thing we talked about was getting a good brand that you trust, remembering that any dish that you make, anything, the lowest common denominator ingredient, including your spices, is going to really have an impact on your results.
Okay.
So if you use not so great ingredients, you're going to get not so great results, and that goes right down to spices.
Now, you talked a lot about shelf life of various food items. What about the shelf life of spices like this?
If you treat them well, the shelf life of spices is several months. It's not years. And a lot of times I'll catch people that have had their spices on their shelf for years, and the packaging has changed and that type of thing. The way to preserve them is to keep them away from air, heat, and light. Just like any other food, those are the things that spoil it. So don't leave them on the cupboard. Don't put them on a rack on the wall. You'll put them inside the cupboard in a cool place, and replace them periodically. The other thing to do is to look at the bottom of the spices, and there's one I think that's pretty dark. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you'll be able to see the expiration date on the spices. It's written right there. Okay. So look at that and know that that's your guide. You're going to get rid of it after that.
So my Tones oregano in the tin can is probably expired.
It might be time to let that go, or take it to the antique store and see what you can get out of it and buy some new spices.
Okay.
The other thing is, if you don't want to buy a whole big container of something because you only need a little bit, go to the bulk area. You can buy just a little tiny quarter teaspoon if you need to. So let's talk about other things with regard to spices. I just mentioned quarter teaspoon. Makes me think of measuring. A lot of times people will have these measuring spoons in their cupboard. These are, you've seen these. These are, they've been around for years.
Just used them yesterday.
These are great, but I've got something better. Think about the ergonomically correctness of this type of spoon and why. You are picking up.
Brilliant.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
So it can actually fit in.
A tablespoon won't go in there. It goes right in there.
That's one of those duh moments.
Exactly. I love that.
Where did you get that?
I just bought them online, but places like Kitchen Collage will carry those types of things. So be on the list. This would be a great Mother's Day gift.
No question.
Would it not? So,
definitely.
So be thinking, my theme is let's make it healthy, let's make it taste good. Those two things are equally important, but also let's make it easy. So if we don't have to mess around with dumping things over the sink and spilling everywhere and measuring, we can do that. One other thing about measuring, I'm going to suggest that you teach yourselves how to measure without measuring. And here's what you do. When I'm learning or teaching somebody how to create food in the kitchen, you'll notice on TV they don't measure. They'll just throw things in and whatnot. That they really are measuring, you just don't see it happening within the spoon. So what you're going to do, if you want to learn how, for example, to know what this measure right here is a half teaspoon.
All right.
What a half teaspoon of spices. You'll take out a half teaspoon, put it in the palm of your hand, memorize what it looks like, and then put it into the dish. Do that a couple times. Then the next time, put what you think is a half teaspoon into your hand. Give yourself a quiz by putting it back and measuring it. Pretty soon you'll get to the point where you can put it in and you don't even have to measure. And that's how they do it on TV.
Bang, bang.
They do it. Wow. So you kind of just
I just learned teaspoon. My grandma taught me teaspoon.
Oh, yeah?
Teaspoon
That's all she taught me. She didn't teach me anything else. So I can put teaspoons in anything.
Okay.
One other thing to commit to memory. There are 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. That will do you a lot of good to know. And the reason is because sometimes you cut a recipe in half, you live by yourself, you're going to just do a half recipe, or you're doubling it. You're going to want to know that. So, couple other things. Spices are really good if you buy them fresh, the ones that come whole, and grind them yourself. So we've got some, for example, mustard seed. Now mustard seed looks just like it sounds. It's a big old seed. But it's really hard to use in anything really other than maybe pickling or a few other recipes. If your recipe, for example, for a mustard dressing calls for mustard powder, you can buy it already powdered, or you can put the seed into your grinder and grind it yourself. Guess which one tastes better?
Yeah,
but does it have to be a special grinder for spices, or can you use your coffee grinder?
You can use your coffee grinder if you haven't already used it for coffee. And that's the key. So if you're going to use a coffee grinder, this is very much like a coffee grinder. I like this one. It's easy to clean. It's not necessary. Coffee grinders might be less expensive, but don't try to swing both ways, because the coffee beans have oil in them, and the oil will stay, and then your dressing will taste like coffee, and your coffee will taste like mustard.
Everything tastes like
none of
coffee.
that.
So have one specifically for spices.
Yes.
Unless, of course, you work for Folgers. But
Right.
anyway, so what did you bring us here?
Okay, the last thing I want to share with you, I'm going to ask you to taste those while I talk at you.
I'm looking at this. I know we're
this
supposed
like
to wrap, but
It's a wrap.
Craig, I want you to look at this.
Okay.
Craig, I want you to look at this real quick, and this is what my eyebrows raised. Okay, look at that. Now look at my surface real quick. This is what scared me about Sheree.
Oh, I forgot about those.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind. What are you trying to do to us, Sheree?
Lou, that is not what. No.
That's yummy.
No,
What is it?
These are nut burgers. Okay.
Nut burgers.
And the reason I brought that along is because in addition to individual spices, there are things called spice blends. Okay. So that tastes like a burger. It's vegan. It's made out of nuts and onions, and there's some sun-dried tomatoes. It's also got
It smells like it.
It's really wonderful.
It's good.
You owe it to yourself. It's and we don't even have ketchup and mustard on there. I didn't want you to spill. So this is just plain. You can dress it up however you want. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme is what my original recipe called for. But I was in a
Simon
hurry.
and Garfunkel song too.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
I was in a hurry, so I bought poultry seasoning. And the poultry seasoning is made up of very many of those ingredients, and it gives it that taste that makes it taste just like a burger.
Like a burger.
You know, we need some Nectar of the Gods little cookies.
There it is.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, so
Even
to
looks
get,
like a burger.
to get maybe get this recipe or maybe other recipes too, where do you suggest people go?
They would come to me at www.fork-road.com, or they can email me directly at info@fork-road.com.
Okay, and your show's gonna be back on real soon.
It's going to be back on real soon. I'm so excited.
That is great. So am I. All right, it's at 9:22. Good to see you.